When a gigantic oil tank suddenly explodes, firefighters run for their lives. We'll investigate what went wrong. In New Delhi, India, flames trap office workers. When ladders come up short, construction crews attempt a desperate rescue. And a runaway cargo ship heads for disaster. For hundreds in a shopping mall, a moment of terror strikes. A routine clear-up operation at an oil tank fire in Texas, America. Firefighters relax, believing they're out of danger. But suddenly, a deadly fireball sends them running for their lives. The woman running is volunteer firefighter Rosie Garcia.
I thought that if I didn't get there fast to get away from it, I was gonna die. It was hot.
It begins as an uneventful summer day for the firefighters in Three Rivers, Texas. But when the alarm sounds for an oil tank fire, they quickly respond. The tank, which holds oil from field wells, has overflowed. A spark, possibly from a passing car, ignited the spilled oil. The fire spreads into the tank, and now 20,000 gallons of highly combustible crude oil are burning, creating plumes of jet black smoke. It will not be an easy fire to extinguish.
It was big. You could see it from miles away. It looked very scary.
News cameraman David Villarreal is dispatched to cover the unfolding disaster.
It was probably about 95 degrees. It was a hot summer day. I had no idea how hot it was going to get.
Hey, Ken, what's going on?
Villarreal videotapes the scene from a distance, but soon he moves in for a closer look. Firefighters spray foam to extinguish the flames. The foam cuts off the fire's oxygen supply to smother it. But getting it to the oil inside is a problem. The only opening is a small hatch on top of the tank. So firefighters must shoot foam through the opening, trying to hit a very small target. They use a lot of foam, and when the flames go down, they think it worked.
Everybody seemed to be confident that the fire was being put out. You can see some of the firefighters actually drinking soda and having sandwiches.
But the fire only appears to be under control. Suddenly, it explodes back into life in a massive fireball, catching everyone by surprise.
I'm turning my camera, I could see it rising and billowing pretty quick.
The temperature of the fireball is estimated to be more than 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt steel.
I covered my eyes and I'm rolling. I could see my eyepiece, what I was shooting. That's when I got burned, right there. I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't blocked my eyes.
Villarreal points his camera behind him and sprints to safety.
And I ran as fast as I could. And I realized that I was burnt. I was in pain. And there for a minute, I thought I wasn't going to make it. It was that scary.
Damn it! I got my arm burned.
You okay?
You burn up?
A little. It felt like it was getting hot and hotter. And then I looked at it, and it was red. Then by the time I looked at it again, it had blisters on it.
What did you think about when the explosion happened? What did you think about it?
I didn't have no much to think. I just ran.
The blisters started to swell, and it got very uncomfortable, and the pain just wouldn't go away. But I had no choice but to keep shooting because it was burnt people worse than I was.
Luckily, no one is killed. Paramedics rushed the severely wounded to the hospital. Only then does Villarreal finally seek medical attention for himself. But even then, he doesn't turn off his camera. He hands it to a reporter to document his own first aid. Firefighters again attack the fire with foam. It's an hour before the fire is under control and 4 hours before they're sure the blaze is out. The question on everyone's mind is what happened.
What do you think caused that explosion?
Just water inside the tank boil over, crude boil over.
The firefighter turns out to be right. The foam is initially quite effective, and if enough of it had reached the fire, it would have smothered it. But the small rooftop hatch made it hard to get enough foam to the source of the flames. The fire crew mistakenly believed the blaze had been extinguished. Instead, oil continued to burn inside the tank, unseen. In time, the heat liquefied the foam. It then sank to the bottom and, as it got hotter, began boiling. It built up a tremendous head of pressure and finally burst to the surface in a massive fireball of steam and burning oil. Rosie Garcia's close brush with death has lasting effects, prompting her to quit the volunteer fire service.
I'm still having nightmares about it sometimes. That's why most of the time I just block it.
David Villarreal's burns are not serious, but he's never forgotten how closely he cheated death.
I've covered quite a bit of tragedies and fires and shootouts and put myself in some very dangerous situations, but that one there, I thought for a second, it's time for me to go.
Ultimately, everyone was lucky to have escaped at all. The fact that the oil was hard to reach made conditions extremely hazardous. A more experienced crew would not have relaxed its guard while still unsure that the fire was completely out. In the heat of the moment, the firefighters' narrow escape was a reminder of the volatile nature of fire. After the break, tourists watch in horror as a runaway cargo ship rams head-on into a shopping mall in New Orleans. And office workers are trapped in a New Delhi inferno and the ladders can't reach them. A 760-foot cargo ship is headed for a collision with a crowded riverfront complex. The 80-ton ship, named the Brightfield, has lost engine power in the crowded waters in the port of New Orleans and can't stop. The impact that follows will tear into a hotel and a shopping mall, putting hundreds of people at risk. Earlier that day, tourists Sam and Alison Bono are enjoying their honeymoon in New Orleans. It's their last day in the city, and they're spending it in the Riverwalk Mall, where Sam is shooting home video of their trip. Suddenly, the mall is enveloped in chaos.
You could hear people yelling, "Get out of the mall, get out of the mall," and the first thing I thought was, oh my gosh, a bomb.
Confused and frightened, the Bonos begin searching for a way out. From her position on the mall's top floor, cooking instructor Susan Murphy sees what is about to happen.
I heard a horn blow from a ship, and I looked up and saw the ship coming right for the Riverwalk.
The Brightfield is now only 3 minutes away from slamming into the shore. The pilot radios an emergency warning to the Coast Guard.
Governor Nick, I just lost my engine. Alert everyone in the harbor to watch out.
The crippled ship careers not only towards the Riverwalk Mall, but also a cruise ship, a packed hotel, and a casino boat jammed with gamblers.
I'm gonna hit that damn cruise ship. Call him or do something. I'm going right for him.
The pilot then takes evasive maneuvers, according to Coast Guard Commander Ken Paris.
The pilot called for right full rudder in an attempt to steer away from the pier. He started sounding the emergency horn to warn other boats and people in the area of the impending disaster.
The harbour master comes up with a last-ditch plan.
Okay, you want me to get some tugs? Roger, roger.
He sends them speeding to intercept the incoming ship. Before the tugs arrive, however, there is a spark of hope. The Brightfield's crew finally manages to restart her huge diesel. They throw the engine into reverse.
They did what a crew would be trained to do. The process just took too much time.
Moments before impact, in a desperate attempt to further slow down the ship, the pilot drops two 10-ton anchors. As this footage clearly shows, the maneuver turns the ship, averting a catastrophic head-on collision. With its horn blowing, the Brightfield comes barreling into the dock.
Tell those people to get away. There's people on the dock. Tell them to get away.
The first thing hit is the Hilton Hotel and a parking area. The tanker has already torn up over 200 feet of the riverfront when it reaches the mall. Instead of running away, Sam Bono runs out onto the dock with his camera. As the ship tears into the dock, Sam is nearly thrown to the ground by the shaking.
The boat had already hit and was moving along the dock and knocking things down.
My first thought was, we've been married 2 weeks and he's running out toward a disaster.
The building shook, tiles were falling, stores were collapsing, and you saw some people injured with blood that had been cut by flying glass. And then when I smelled gas, I knew it was time to get out.
But the horror doesn't end. The big ship still won't stop.
Okay, warn the gambling boat. I'm going right for him.
Yeah, he's going to hit the riverboat now.
Oh my God, look at the people rushing to get off.
Oh, God.
There was only 2 ways to get off the gambling ship, and they could see that coming right towards them.
Finally, the Brightfield comes to a halt, just 25 yards from the casino boat.
He ate the dock up.
The hotel collapsed, man. You got the hotel that fell off. Oh, Jesus. They got a mess here.
More than 100 people are injured, but miraculously, no one is killed. The Riverwalk Mall, the Hilton Hotel, and an apartment block are severely damaged. It's a £60 million trail of destruction.
Looking back, I think it's still a little scary. It's exciting, but, you know, I'm just glad nobody got hurt.
I think every time we watch it, my knees get weak again, because I think we were right where it hit.
The ensuing investigation reveals that a computer programmed to protect the cargo ship shut down the engine when it sensed a drop in oil pressure. The Brightfield's bad luck was that this happened at a critical moment in the ship's voyage. The Coast Guard now requires that all vessels be certified in working order before they can enter the crowded waters of the Mississippi. They also require all cargo ships to have an operating override system that can provide full power on command, a requirement that could have prevented this crash. But the Coast Guard and other Mississippi River pilots credit the Brightfield's pilot with averting even greater damage and potential loss of life. By giving advance warning and using his anchors to turn the vessel, he prevented what could have been a truly deadly tragedy. Fire engines race to a raging fire that roars through a 12-story office building in New Delhi, India. Hundreds of panicked workers are trapped inside. As firefighters battle the inferno, daring construction workers risk their lives on a makeshift bamboo bridge in a rescue attempt. It's a fire that never should have happened, but it could have been worse. June the 29th, 1987. In the bustling capital of India, Motri Sen, an office worker, prepares to leave her job in one of the city's modern new high-rises. She's one of the 2,000 people who work here, as does R.K. Thacker, the owner of a food corporation. At 10 a.m., Thacker is at his desk on the 5th floor. And that's when the fire breaks out.
I didn't waste a single moment. I didn't even pick up my personal belongings.
As fire engines respond, Taka and his co-workers race down the 5 flights of stairs. Once outside, they're shocked by what they see.
We could see the fire leaping up from one floor to another, people crying for help, some were trapped, some were inside the room, some were trying to jump. It was a heart-rending scene.
The fire has started on the 5th floor in the office complex where Motre Sen and her colleagues are working.
There was heavy smoke coming from the corridor. So we tried to go out, but the lights went off and we could not proceed further. We had to come back. So we thought maybe somebody would come to rescue us.
Toxic smoke and flames in the hallway trap Sen and her team in their office. Desperate, they crawl out onto a window ledge to wait for help. But the fire is getting closer. Sen, seen here sitting on the ledge, is frantic.
There was a flame coming from the next window where the computer was. So I got more scared.
Firefighters try to reach them, but their ladders are too short. The flames quickly spread upward to the 6th and 7th floors. The only fire exit is blocked by office rubbish and filled with smoke. Some workers escape, but 200 others are forced up to the roof. While horrified spectators watch from below, construction workers from the neighboring building try to help. Using bamboo poles and a cement bucket from their work site, they attempt a dangerous rescue. But they lose their grip. Problems also plague the firefighters. One of their ladders is jammed. There is no pressurized water in the building and no emergency lights to guide them through the thick smoke. Fire Chief S.K. Derry says his men were frustrated by the conditions.
So once I reached on this spot, I could assess it that it's not going to be an easy job for us to do the job. And there were only 2 staircases in this building. The staircase, which was to be known as a fire escape, was basically a dumping ground for all the broken furniture.
The fire rages out of control for 3 hours. Air Force helicopters attempt to airlift people from the roof. But Chief Derry turns them back, fearing their blades will fan the flames even more. Sen, stuck on the ledge, faces a desperate choice. Should she wait or should she jump?
My colleagues and all, they started shouting, please don't jump, be there, we'll save you, you'll be saved, at any cost we'll save you.
Finally, a fire engine arrives with a longer ladder, which reaches her window, and she's then led to safety. On the 12th floor, construction workers made a bridge between the buildings, using scaffolding, rope and a ladder. They risked their lives by crawling across this makeshift bridge to help 24 trapped workers.
It was a very brave effort, this rescue operation, immediately improvised on the spot.
Finally, 7 hours after it began, the fire is extinguished. 3 people are dead and 56 others need hospital treatment. Montre Sen knows she's lucky to be alive.
I got a second life there. I really thank God and my colleagues and the firemen who had saved me at that crucial time.
Investigators traced the fire to an overloaded electrical system on the 5th floor. Overheated cables ignited wooden doors that covered the electrical shaft. The flames shot up the electrical shaft to the upper floors. Fueled by combustible carpeting and wood ceilings, the flames spread rapidly. Ultimately, the tragedy is blamed on a disregard for fire safety. The building lacked fire extinguishers, hoses, smoke detectors and alarms that were required by law. and the office workers themselves may not have understood the danger the fire posed.
All others could have walked to safety. You know. I'm sure some of them must have ignored the fire. They'll bring it under control. Why bother? Carry on.
The fire and its images have had a lasting impression in New Delhi. The fire department has been better able to enforce its strict high-rise fire codes. Office buildings all over the city have been inspected and faults put right. The fire is now just a memory, but those who survived will never forget the ordinary people who refused to stand by while others were in danger.
That's the last edition of What Went Wrong for now. Next week we'll be cheering on Liverpool as they take on CH5 in the first round of the UEFA Cup. Then in 2 weeks' time, and a little earlier, at 8 o'clock, the start of a new series looking at the world's most daring rescues. It's just one heart-stopping thrill after another on this channel, don't you know?